What's good, YouTube? It's Justice I used to be paying. Today I'm back with another video. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about why this might be the last chance for Lil Baby with the internet. But before I get into that, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe. Do all those things. It helps me out a ton. Lil Baby is dropping an album soon titled Wham, which is his nickname, which apparently stands for Who Hard Is Me? And now we've been getting more music from Lil Baby in the recent weeks. We've gotten a bunch of singles, including a single that came out last night, I believe, titled Touchdown. And we even are getting more and more information as the months and weeks go on. Recently, there was a photo posted of Lil Baby working on like a whiteboard, and it had his track list listed out on there. It had like around 14, 15 songs. And one of them was the intro, which was really the one that was the one of notice, according to the internet, and it had a feature from not only Future, but Young Thug, who recently came home, and that's really big for Lil Baby right now because in terms of getting in the good graces of the internet, having Young Thug on your project is amazing because of how much everyone loves Young Thug and how everyone is really excited to hear what he has to say since coming home. But Lil Baby really is behind the 8 ball with this project, and this project is the excuse that people are looking for to bury him. Lil Baby has been one of the most hated rappers on the internet for the last few years now. He really just can't do anything right in the eyes of the internet, and musically he hasn't really had anything that's caught on massively over the last 2 year stretch. Besides the Band for Band song, there hasn't been a whole bunch from Lil Baby that's really stuck, and even that song wasn't taken particularly serious, but it just feels like he can do nothing right in the eyes of the internet. His actions, his outfits, his music, whatever he does at this point is just massively criticized and massively slandered. Not to mention the whole situation with him becoming friends with Michael Rubin and the way that people have talked about Lil Baby since those, very strange looking photos have came out. But basically, he's got a massive hate train right now, and it's really only comparable to somebody like Meek Mill. Now, it's never that serious. He's not getting hated on like Meek Mill. Meek Mill can't even breathe without getting hated on, and honestly, sometimes it's very justified. But that's besides the point. Lil Baby right now has a very big hate train, and it's following him around with everything that he does, very similar to Meek. Just a few years ago, Lil Baby was one of the very few movers in hip-hop, and when I say movers, I mean those names that when they do something, when they really go in on something, everyone in hip-hop has to move accordingly. You just have to make room for them, okay? A Drake, a Kendrick, a Ye, a Travis Scott, a Cardi, a Tyler, the Creator, a Nicki Minaj, these artists where everyone has to move around them when they really start doing their thing. And Lil Baby was one of those guys. Everything that Lil Baby touched at a certain point was just nuclear. He just could not do any wrong. Everything he did was golden. But now, and some people were even arguing that he would possibly be the guy to unseat Drake one day as the #1 rapper in the game. But now that's just very clearly not the case. And if you are going to make the argument that he's going to be the guy to unseat Drake, it's going to be kind of hard to do that. It's going to be a very uphill battle. But in 2024, Lil Baby has actually dropped a decent amount of singles and snippets throughout the year, but none of them have really caught on like we're used to seeing with Lil Baby. Besides, again, the Band for Band song with Central C, which charted at the highest at 18, which is good. That's good. That's not bad. That's not a thing to be ashamed about. But when we're talking about Lil Baby and the type of artist that he is, that's not anything crazy. Charting at its highest at 18 isn't anything crazy. That's still good, don't get me wrong, but looking at the history of Lil Baby, not blowing me out of the water with 18. He's typically a guy that's in that top 5, in that top 10, in that top 15. And outside of the Band for Band song, none of his other singles have debuted or have even charted at its peak inside the top 30. Now, obviously, this Touchdown song just came out, and maybe that song will, and this will look stupid in a few days or in a week or so, maybe, who knows. But up until this point of me recording this video, December 6th, nothing has charted inside the top 30. And for most artists, that's not bad. If you're getting on the charts in general, if you're 50, if you're 60, that's cool. But for Lil Baby, that is a little bit concerning just because of the archetype of rapper that he is. He is a Billboard hitmaker type of rapper. In his 6 or 7 years, he already has over 100 easily Billboard songs. So he's the type of guy, when he drops something, it typically debuts at least top 20. Debuts, not even picking up steam, a few weeks down and maybe going even higher, just in terms of a debut, baseline, typically around the top 20. So for him to not have a song in the top 30 outside of the Band for Band song, that is a little bit strange. That is a little bit peculiar. But more than just the music going crazy on the charts or it not going crazy, the music hasn't really moved people. Again, the Band for Band song was cool, but that wasn't a song that was really moving people in the way that we've seen Lil Baby songs in the past move people. And he hasn't really had that in 2024. And people aren't really as in tune with Lil Baby as they were just in general as a hip hop like society. People aren't rushing to hear what Lil Baby just dropped anymore. People aren't dying to talk about it on Twitter and YouTube videos like I am right now. People aren't rushing to make TikToks to every Lil Baby song that comes out anymore. That's just not really a thing. People are still listening to his music. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to paint this picture that he's completely fallen off. He definitely still has a massive fan base, and a fan base that is much more in person than it is online. But I think that that is going to be a growing trend, or at least that looks like a growing trend for the future for Lil Baby. It looks like as time goes on, more and more of his fan base end up as diehard fans. And I'm not saying this because more people are becoming Lil Baby fans and they're becoming super, super diehard Lil Baby fans. It's because a lot of the casual fans seem to be leaving at the moment. Hip-hop society as a whole is just not as in tune with Lil Baby as we used to be, right? In 2021, when he dropped anything, people were jumping on it immediately. Y'all hear that new Lil Baby. Even if you didn't go and listen to it, you were going to hear it because somebody else played it, somebody else made a TikTok to it, you were going to hear it. Now, that's not necessarily the case. You watching this video, you might not have known about Insecurities coming out. You might not have known about Touchdown, which came out literally last night, or Touchdowns, whichever one it is. Some of these songs that are coming out aren't hitting the masses in the way that they used to, right? When Drake drops something, you're going to know. You're going to know either because somebody's playing it, you went to play it yourself, or somebody's talking about it, or your friends talk. Somehow you're going to know, all right? If Travis drops something, you're probably going to know. If Kendrick drops something, you're definitely going to know if you're a hip-hop fan, if you're in tune. But right now, it's possible to be in tune with what's going on with hip-hop while being out of tune with Lil Baby. The guys that do massive numbers have massive fan bases, and they have massive fan bases filled with casual fans. Look at Drake. Drake's the biggest rapper in the world, and of course, he has a bunch of diehard fans, but most of his fan base is made up of casual fans. Or Kendrick Lamar just recently gained a lot of casual fans. These fans are the guys that are tuning in when that person is super hot and they're listening to the music when that person's hot, when they're going, when things are going great in their career and they're paying attention to them at those moments. But they're not the guys that are paying attention to every little thing. And when these artists start to come down a little bit, they start to not be as hot, they're probably not going to be there, or at least they're not going to be there as attentive as they once were. And I think that's what we're starting to see with Lil Baby. He's starting to lose some of that casual fan base because Lil Baby's typically always at the top of the charts, or not the top of the charts, at the top of the list. Well, he is at the top of the charts usually, but he's normally at the top of the list when those end of year lists come out. Okay, these are the rappers with the most streams, and he was not at the top of this list this year. I don't think he was in the top 10 of most streamed rappers on Spotify this year, and that's kind of crazy. Lil Baby's always in that list, and if he was, I'll correct myself while I'm editing, but still, he's typically in that top 5, top 10 range in terms of most streamed rappers, and he's not. He's not this year. He's just not. Lil Baby is starting to become a rapper with a higher percentage of diehard fans in his fan base, which is good. Having more diehard fans is good, but at the same time, he's losing that overall number. So in exchange for that overall number being gone, now the diehard percentage is higher, but it's a give and a take. The most extreme version of this is his own rapper that he's actually signed, Rilo Rodriguez, who is an amazing rapper in my opinion. I love Rilo. But when it comes to Rilo, he doesn't have a lot of casual fans. If somebody tells you that they're a Rilo Rodriguez fan, there's a 95% chance that that person is what most people would at least call a diehard. They're checking in on every release. They're listening to every album. They might go to a concert if he comes to their city. Like, these are the guys, when somebody says they're a Rilo fan, they're really a Rilo fan. If somebody says they're a fan of Drake's music, that could mean anything. That could mean they like One Dance and God's Plan, and that's pretty much it, and they listen to his biggest songs. It also could mean that they listen to every Drake album and go to every Drake show and buy all his merch. Like, there's a very big difference in between a Drake fan and a Drake fan, but they're both a Drake fan. But at this point, the difference between a Lil Baby fan and a Lil Baby fan is starting to close because more Lil Baby fans that are the casual ones are starting to move on and do other things and not really pay him as much attention. In the opinion of the internet, Lil Baby has started to go stale in terms of his music. His music still feels the same and sounds kind of the same while not hitting the way it did 5 years ago. So not only is the music not progressing in terms of like sound, but it's also regressing in terms of quality. Like, his music feels formulaic at this point and a bit soulless. Like, the narrative is, if you've heard one Lil Baby song, you've kind of heard them all, right? And he's also beefing right now with an internet darling in Gunna. And everything that he does is gonna be compared to Gunna, and that's really not the best thing in the world right now because Gunna's on a heater. Say what you want about the man, he's kind of going crazy musically, and the internet is loving everything that Gunna does or has done since he's been released from jail. So not only are the internet not really feeling Lil Baby in terms of what he's releasing, his music, how stale it feels to them, he's being compared to a guy who is, in the eyes of the internet, kind of going crazy right now. People are ready to give Lil Baby the Polo G treatment, and what I mean by this is just eventually letting him go away. Polo G was one of the most hated on rappers on the internet from 2021 to 2023. Like, he just couldn't do anything right. People said that he was boring. He didn't evolve as an artist. He kept making the same music over and over again. They even gave him the nickname Piano G. Like, he just couldn't do anything right. And this was not long after being considered one of the hottest young stars in the genre, being considered a guy who was going to carry rap forward into the future and be one of the top stars of the 2020s. And this really all came off the back of the album Hall of Fame, which was an album that was not well liked by the fans. It was hated on by most people, and I didn't even really like the album. But when it rains, it pours on the internet, and people took that album and ran with it and just basically bashed the man for an entire 2-year period. And during that period, he actually ended up taking a break. He took a big break in between Hall of Fame and his next album, which ended up being Hood Poet. And all of those jokes and hate turned into indifference because Hood Poet only sold 24K first week. Hood Poet got outsold by Ice Spice's debut album, Y2K. He got outsold by Lotto. Polo G got outsold by Ice Spice and Lotto. And I'm not saying that because they're women, but they're much smaller artists than what Polo G at least was. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen to Lil Baby, but I am saying that this seems like a similar play. It's not the exact same song, but it feels like I'm hearing some of the same notes and some of the same lyrics. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen to Lil Baby because he is a much bigger artist than Polo G, even when you look at peak for peak. But what I am saying is that I think that Lil Baby right now needs an undeniably great album. He needs to hit a home run. He needs something that everyone as a whole can pretty much say, all right, he kind of did his thing with that one. Even somebody who's hating, because I don't even know if this album just being good is going to be good enough to kind of flip the narrative of what's going on the internet. Because when the internet wants something about you to be true, they're going to make whatever you did try to fit into that narrative. And so if the album is, good or it's decent or it's not bad, that's probably not going to be enough. And if this album is split down the middle between fans who do like it and fans who don't like it, it might get kind of rough for Lil Baby. It might get kind of rough online for Lil Baby. Not to the point in which he's going to drop his album and it's going to sell 30K first week. I don't think that's going to happen. But in terms of his numbers and relevancy, there may be a big difference between what he's doing now and even what he did with the album It's Only Me, which was an album that wasn't well received, kind of like how I mentioned earlier with the album Hall of Fame. It was good to some people, but to a lot of people, it wasn't good. So I'm not saying he's going to fall off, his career's going to be done or anything that dramatic, but I think that it could get pretty rough for him in terms of how people view him. And for that reason, I think that this is a very tough album for Lil Baby. Like, he has a lot of pressure on him right now, in my opinion. This upcoming album has to feel like a huge deal. I need this to be huge. It needs to be big. I mean, big promotion, big marketing budget. It needs to feel like the biggest thing going on in the space. Okay? I need him to do big time interviews. He needs to go on Kai Cenat's stream and do a performance. He needs to do whatever he can to make this album feel important. His label needs to do whatever they can to make sure this album feels really important. It feels like a big deal. It feels like if you listen to hip hop, you just can't ignore that this is happening. You have to at least pay someone attention, maybe hear a few songs if you're not going to hear the whole album. You have to know that this is going on. Kind of like what just happened recently with Kendrick's GNX. No matter what you listen to in hip hop, you know that album just came out. You know people are talking about it. You might have heard a song or two. Or with Chromacopia, Tyler, the Creator. Even if you don't listen to Tyler, you know that album just came out. You know people are talking about it. You heard a song or two on TikTok or Twitter, even if you didn't try and listen to it. You might have tried it out just because everyone else is listening to it. That's what this album needs to feel like for Lil Baby. It needs to be something that we can't ignore, and he has to hit it out of the park. He does. Because if he drops this album and it gets kind of ignored, or he drops it and people are paying attention and it kind of flops in terms of, quality or maybe even numbers, it might get really rough, man. I'm just saying, when it rains on the internet, it pours. And when you flop in the moment of people having a really massive hate train going against you, that's really hard to recover from. It is. And I don't want Lil Baby to fall off. I'm not saying he's gonna fall off, but I don't want that to happen to Lil Baby because I like Lil Baby. I do. I know it may not seem like it because I'm talking negatively in this video, but I like Lil Baby. So I do want what's best for him. And I don't want this to be a moment where everyone who's been, pushing these narratives for the last couple of years can point to this album and say, see, I told y'all. I told y'all. Look, he's doing the same thing over and over again. And look, less people are paying attention. I told y'all. I don't want that to be the case for this album, but he needs a home run. Lil Baby needs a home run because the internet is about ready to put that final nail in his casket. But that's going to be the end of my video. If you made it this far, I greatly, greatly appreciate you. If you agree, if you disagree with anything I said in this video, make sure you let me know down below in the comments. Am I an idiot? Am I the smartest person on earth? Whatever you got to say, let me know if you made it this far. I greatly, greatly appreciate you. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It helps me out a ton. Have a good day. Be safe. Be blessed. I go by the name of Pay. Peace.